Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about how to prepare for a medical coding job assessment test. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay, guys. So when you are out there applying for medical coding jobs, they will give you an assessment test to assess your skills. Now, each test is going to be unique to the facility and unique to the person who's actually sitting down and creating this test, because every facility has different needs. It is not one size fits all. And the thing about being prepared for these tests, because you don't know what they're going to test you on, there's a few things that you can look at to kind of help you to navigate and help you to better prepare yourself for these tests. What happens is a lot of times when medical coders are brand new, they've gotten their certification, a lot of them will stop studying because they're out there applying for jobs. Well, when you're out there applying for jobs, you tend to forget a lot of the things that you learned in coding school, and especially because it takes a while to find a job. It is not a fast process for the majority of people. If you get lucky, maybe you'll find a job quickly right after you get certified, but for a lot of people, they're looking for months. And so if you spend months not studying, you're going to forget. And when you're presented with an opportunity to, hey, take this test and we'll see where you're at. And if you can't pass that, then you're never going to get in. Okay, so keeping up on your coding skills, because that is going to be the bulk of these tests. It's going to be about coding. So even practicing with your workbooks or practicing with any online things that you see, getting your coding manuals, and if you have the Optum coding books, which I love, the ICD-10-CM Expert for Physicians is the Optum book that I use. Please don't ask me about the physicians, the hospitals edition, because I don't use that book, okay? I don't use that book and I don't like it, but I do like the Expert for Physicians. At the beginning of every chapter, they have coding examples. I've always recommended to cover up the answers and to answer the questions and then look at the rationale and to see if you got it right. So that way you can keep yourself up on coding, okay? We need to at least continue to practice, because again, the majority of these coding assessment tests are going to be about coding, okay? So that's one thing that you can check off your list. If you are working with your old coding manuals, your old coding workbooks, that's another good thing too. If you don't have them, you can always go to the public library and see if they have any coding books, or even if they have books on billing. Now, before you say, well, I don't want to be a biller, you don't have to be a biller, but there are things in the billing workbooks that may help you to retain a lot of your knowledge. That's what you're trying to do. Just because you're studying it, just because you're going over it, doesn't mean that that's what you have to do, okay? We just want to keep up on skill. I have never been a biller, although I do know things about billing because I have educated myself, okay? So you can be the same way, but the thing is keeping that skill up to date. Knowing what your modifiers are. I see a lot of people, when I ask them, what is modifier 25? Deer in the headlights, can't even answer me. And in your CPT manual, there's a whole inside flap cover that has all of the modifiers and what they are. So the fact that you have that readily available to you, if you have your CPT manual, that really does help. You can also go online and go to the Google machine and type in the modifiers that you are looking for. So that way you can have a good idea of what modifiers there are, what they are for, and which codes they apply to. Because there are some modifiers that only apply to evaluation and management codes, and there are other modifiers that only apply to the procedure codes, like in CPT. So that's the thing that you have to remember, okay? There's different modifiers for different reasons. And so reviewing those modifiers really does help. Knowing what HIPAA stands for is really big too. I did a poll a couple months ago now about what does HIPAA stand for. Do you know the majority that answered that post got it wrong? A very small number of people actually got it right. And so that's saying something, guys. You have to know what HIPAA stands for. And it's 2 A's, not 2 P's, okay? I'm just saying. You have to understand what it is for, because I have talked to people who have hired people before, other coders, and I've asked them, what is the number one thing that would keep you from hiring somebody if you're interviewing them and they couldn't answer this question? And they said, what does HIPAA stand for? If they can't tell me what does HIPAA stand for, I don't want them in my hospital. And I'm like, fair enough. Fair enough. Because what else do you not know? Okay, that's the number one thing that we need to know, because it is our job to protect patient information. Okay, this is very highly sensitive information. This is information that could have damaging effects if it was put into the wrong hands. And so because of that, we have to know all about HIPAA. So making sure that you're still practicing on your coding, making sure that you know about the modifiers, and the modifiers that you need to know, at least have a general understanding of those modifiers and where they apply. And if you have the CPT Professional Edition by the AMA, it is in Appendix A that they do have explanations of all of the modifiers. So I encourage you highly to read those, so that way you can get a good grasp of, okay, this is what this is. All right. So that is very important. And the other thing that you should do is to make sure, of course, that you know HIPAA, but to practice on your medical terminology and your anatomy. Those are other questions that may be asked of you. And if you say, well, where can I go to learn about anatomy and medical terminology? You're on YouTube already watching my videos. Thank you. And you can go into the search engine of YouTube and put in medical terminology or put in anatomy, and you will see lots of videos come up. Crash Course is the #1 channel that I recommend. There is also JJ Medicine, that they have lots of really good videos. Some are short, some are a little bit longer, very entertaining videos about anatomy and medical terminology. And that is one of the things that if you're really strong in that, that's going to go over very well for you, because of the simple fact that if you understand that, you got that basic understanding, the interpretation of the documentation is going to come a lot easier to you than it would be to somebody that doesn't know or gets very lost and confused, because there are a lot of things that sound like they should be someplace else on the body, and they're actually in a really weird place. So with that said, practicing on your medical terminology and your anatomy is very, very important. Now, I will say that if you are going to apply at a specialty place, like say for instance, an orthopedic group, right? You're going to apply for an orthopedic group because they're the ones that are hiring. Okay, great. So to practice and to make sure that you're prepared for their assessment test, you have to understand injuries, right? Because that is something that goes hand in hand with ortho. That's what they do. They take care of broken bones. They take care of the musculoskeletal system. So your first stop is to look at all of the guidelines in there for the musculoskeletal system, right? So you got your musculoskeletal system, and then you have your injuries section, and then you have your external cause code section. So you really want to make sure that you're reading up on all those 3 chapters in your ICD-10-CM coding guidelines, because that's going to help you to be able to answer these questions confidently. Now let's look at the fact that you say, well, Blue, I don't have any experience. You don't have to have experience, guys. What you have to have is knowledge. And that's the disconnect with a lot of people, is that they automatically want to discount themselves. You already have an industry discounting you for you. Don't be another person that is out there discounting yourself and your knowledge. And while you may not have any coding experience, you do have knowledge, and you have really good retention of the current guidelines. So that's something that is very important, and that is going to be your ticket in. If you understand that that's what you're going to emphasize, not emphasize the fact that you don't have experience. Oh, this is my first job. I'm looking for an entry-level job. If I'm a hiring manager and I'm looking at all these candidates, and I have a candidate who's coming to me who is very confident in saying, this is what I got trained in. This is all the things that I know. This is what I have been doing to prepare myself. This is what I know about evaluation and management. This is what I know about modifiers. This is what I know about whatever subject it is. If it is an ortho clinic, you could say, this is what I understand about injuries. And you could talk about initial, subsequent, and sequela, and what does that mean? You will be very impressive if you can tell the interviewer for an orthopedic clinic when would you apply sequela into a situation. So that's something that will help you to bolster your chances. But you're never going to improve your chances of passing an assessment test if you're not out there actively practicing what you're doing. If you're interested in applying for a cardio clinic, it's the same thing. You're going to go over the cardio guidelines for ICD-10-CM, the cardio chapter for CPT if it's an outpatient, right? And same thing for ortho. You're going to go over that in CPT as well, those chapters, the 20,000 series for ortho. So that way you can look at all the procedures that are there, because you don't know what they're going to ask you, all right? And then if you happen to do very well on your assessment test and they do bring you in for an interview, then you have something to talk about, okay? It is a person who understands and knows this stuff, and it's not memorized. It's just stuff that you understand from what you have been studying. They know you have no experience. We don't need to harp on that. We need to focus on the fact that this is what I'm going to bring to you. This is all this knowledge that I've got, because that's what this industry trades on, is knowledge. Not about how many credentials you have, not about how much that you're brand new, or that you went to this school, or that you got this 4.0 GPA. No one cares about your GPA when it comes to hiring for medical coders. They don't care, because every school is different, and so it's not always going to be a fair showing of like, okay, this person is a 4.0 but doesn't know anything. Well, they have a 4.0 because the person's there to collect a check and go home. So that's the thing. You have to show for yourself the things that you know, all right? So that's just another little thing there. But yes, look at the specialty that you are applying for and focus on those guidelines, read those guidelines, and read them a few times, okay? So that way you have something, okay, like I get this, right? Internal medicine, you're going to be looking through that whole thing, right? But you're going to look at all of these, you're going to be reading your coding guidelines to begin with in its entirety. But to drill down, like, okay, what are we doing here? Is this, what are we seeing here a lot of? You can do a lot of that research online. You can go to the organization's website and see what they're known for. If they're known for particular surgeries, then you're going to look up those surgeries and what conditions are treated with those surgeries. So that way you can do more in-depth research about, okay, it's this condition and they have these types of surgeries for it. Well, you're going to walk in with more confidence because you know. We lack confidence as new coders when we don't do our research. And that has a huge part in it. If you are not doing your research and you are not looking this stuff up, you're not taking these common sense steps. And I say that this is common sense steps because if you're going to apply at a ortho place, you better know your ortho guidelines. And it's the same thing if you're doing cardio. It's the same thing if you're doing neuro. You're going to have to make sure that you understand, okay, where are we at? Are we in an outpatient clinic? So if we are in an outpatient clinic, then I should have some understanding of those outpatient E&M codes, right? And the modifiers that apply to those. If I'm applying for the ER, right, the ER is going to see a smattering of a bunch of things. So yes, while you should be going through your guidelines in their entirety, in the ER, they have their own set of evaluation and management codes. They have their own set of rules when it comes to evaluation and management for the ER, such as there is no such thing as an established or a new patient in the ER, right? Everybody is the same. And there is no, you can't get an E&M based on time in the emergency department either, because there's going to be so many things going on in the ER that it is impossible to say, hey, I did this much minutes with this patient. And so that's why time is not a factor in the emergency department. So that's something that you have to know, okay? And again, those are things that can help prepare you for success. So that way when you're in there, you're going on what you know, okay? Not the fact that you don't have experience. We all know that. Let's move past that, all right? Let's show what we know. And that's going to be better for you. Because if I have somebody, again, coming in harping that they don't have experience, they're brand new, and they just want somebody to give them a chance, you're not showing me why I should give you a chance. You're just telling me, well, I'm brand new, I'm brand new. Well, there's a bunch of other brand new people too. And I'm going to look at the person who's going to show the most potential and the most promise. The most potential and the most promise is going to be the person that is actively engaged and is also asking me questions in the interview, is not going to take a back seat, is not going to want to sit there and have my hand held so that, you know, you're basically doing everything and leading that person. And I know I upset some people when I say that. I mean, it doesn't bother me because, and it shouldn't bother you either, especially if you understand what I'm trying to say, is that a lot of people expect to have their hand held because that's what they were promised with the school, but every employer is different. And when we look at the reality of the situation, that you're going to have to learn a lot of this stuff on your own, that the people that are hiring you are taking a chance on you and taking a chance that you are going to do your best to try to learn this stuff on your own as well. Because even people with experience can be not as competent, right? Especially if they've gotten away from a lot of things. You're brand new coming in and you're able to answer a lot of these things. So that's very impressive. But you just got to keep learning. This is the most learning that you will do in this first part. And this is what runs off a lot of people, is that, you know, they get overwhelmed with everything that they have to learn. It doesn't have to be overwhelming if you're doing it consistently. If you are still studying, if you're still practicing, it doesn't have to be as intense as the 20 hours, but at least 10 hours. Because you have your certification, and if you're not working, at least putting in 10 hours per week, this half of what you used to do is going to be able to keep up with your skill. You can look at all of these things for, you know, these scenarios and things like that, so that way you can get that practice in, okay? And practice on those areas that you know that you weren't so good on in the school. So let's say, for instance, you didn't do so well with evaluation and management. I just posted the evaluation and management study guide. Now, this is a study guide, okay? I had to take down the trackers because it confused too many people. But the study guide, the evaluation and management study guide, is a 12-week study guide that follows the Optum Evaluation and Management Coding Advisor book. And so there's lots of scenarios in there and everything. And I break it down based on 12 weeks. It's really going from 1 to 11. And then there are some chapters that I did not include in the evaluation and management study guide, only because they're not tested on as much, and they're more niche evaluation and management levels. So the ones that I'm really focusing on in these 11 weeks really is the ones that are more tested on more frequently, the ones that are used a lot more often. So outpatient evaluation and management, and then of course the emergency department and that kind of thing. So if you go through these and you follow the steps, and yes, there's a lot of things in there that are, you're like, why do I have to do this? You have to do that because it's helping to develop you as somebody who's competent in evaluation and management. Now, this is going to set a really good foundation if you follow it, okay? So if you want to order it, it is in the description box below. Like I said, there's no tracker in there because it confused too many of you. I thought I was very clear, but whatever. But the tracker, not the tracker, there we go. The study guide, the evaluation and management study guide is there. And so if you look in the description box below, you'll see how you can order it and what the cost is. But I think it's great, and you do have to purchase the evaluation and management coding advisor from Optum, the Optum website, or you can get it off of Amazon. So that way you can go through the study guide, because it doesn't work if you don't have that book. You have to have that book. That is the book that I am using to guide you through those 12 weeks, or the 11 weeks rather. And like I said, in the 12th week, you can review what's there, and you can also review the chapters that you skipped over. So that way you can get everything if you want, or you can go back over the things that you really didn't understand. So I think it's a good one. So I just put it out, so we'll see. But with that said, that's how you prepare, okay? look at the place that you are applying at. If it is an outpatient clinic, you know you're going to be looking at those outpatient evaluation and management codes. You know you're going to be looking at the whatever specialty it is. You're going to be looking at those guidelines in ICD-10-CM and in CPT to see what kind of procedures there are. So that way you can give yourself a little bit of an edge because you know something specifically about that specialty. Okay, at least that's just my advice anyway. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But yes, guys, you can pass these tests. And if you happen to fail, though, I will say this. If they say, well, you didn't pass with a score that would say that, you know, you passed with us, because sometimes you may get like an 85, but if their passing score for that assessment test is a 95, well, you failed it pretty bad, right? According to them. But you can always ask them, well, thank you for letting me know what my score was, because sometimes they won't tell you. Thank you for letting me know what my score was. Would you mind if I had another chance? I think I know where I went wrong. Okay. And then if they say yay or nay, if they say yes, then go ahead and take it again and then see what it comes out with. And if you did better, then they know, okay, this person has potential. And if not, if they say, no, we can't do that, sorry, that's okay. At least you got that extra practice in, because that's what this is practice. Not every place that you apply is going to be your forever home. I had to go through 2 different jobs in order to find my forever home. So it's okay, you know, but don't take it personally if you don't pass, but at least know, hey, I have to improve somewhere. Okay, there's something I need to go back over. There's something I need to study extra on so that I can prepare myself for the next round. This is my advice anyway. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.